This is a Play Your Way network presentation. Get the full story at PlayLifeYourWay.com. In a world where the top film franchises are either reboots, comic adaptations, or just an overhyped waste of time, Play Your Way Network is back, and this time it's personal. With Derreck and BK riding along to help you curate your movie news, theories, and reviews the Player Way. This is the weekly Movie Chat Podcast, hosted by BK Jackson and Derreck Lewis.
Weekly Movie Chat Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen and everyone in between, with all due respect, and I do mean with all due respect, this is your resident podcast, DJ BK, helping you understand how to curate your movie news and other types of media.
The Player Way.
And I'm going to try to do this episode completely alone, but...
Corrupting the system.
That's right. You're not going to do it alone. It is I, me. Hit it, James. Me too.
That's right. Mr. Corrupting the System is back for another week. Y'all know I couldn't do it alone.
Corrupting the system. The Player Way.
What's going on, brother?
Oh, man, you already know. Another week. Man, in the books, we've been living life. I've been curating media. You already know. I'm a consumer as well.
Hey, another week in the land of the geek. Another day, another dollar. Another opportunity for us to holla.
The Player Way.
And of course, if we're going to talk about holla, we absolutely have to give it up. Let's get this future bass going. Yeah, that's right. When you hear that music, you know it's time for the smooth stylings of James, the producers. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for him.
Hey, how's it going, guys? What's up?
Yeah, man. It's great to have you back, man.
Good to be here. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. You are completely helping us transform this podcast.
The Player Way.
That's right.
Yeah.
Man, I got so excited. I was like, James, the producers. Like, it's like as if it's plural. Like, it's more than just him in this room. And that's what it feels like.
All in the
If y'all
video.
knew, all in the video. If y'all knew what was going on in this situation, one of these days we're going to be able to do this thing live. But as you know, we do this thing completely in one single take. With, you know, from the moment we start this take to the end of it, you're hearing all the mistakes that happen within it. And what's great is those mistakes are definitely kept to a minimum. Those mistakes are definitely kept to a minimum because James, the producer, is there to make sure it's taken care of. And yeah, man, I'm just completely excited about this.
For sure. You know, I'm excited to be a part of the team. I know this is episode 3 so far since I've been on the team.
Episode 3 since you've been on the team,
Yeah.
man. And we're about to get it started. So we've given you the first couple of episodes, ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between, to get used to what we're doing on this podcast. But I want to get serious for a moment if I can.
Those were the tastes, man. Just
Absolutely. So if you saw the title of this episode, you've seen it. It's called Have Filmmakers Lost the Art of Authenticity Part 1. What's going on with this is normally you would look at our podcast and you'd see the title of a show. You'd see, like, you know, of whatever movie that we were watching throughout the week. That's not the best way. I'm gonna pull back the curtains a little bit and let you guys kind of hear what we're doing strategy wise. Because if you're listening to this podcast, you're not listening to this podcast because you just want to get news. You can get news anywhere, but you want to get our ability to hear our take on things. I'm always affected by this amazing quote from a civil rights leader. Someone called him a radical. Someone called him an anarchist. But his name is Huey P. Newton, and he had this potent potable that he went down in history with, and it's about the word power and about what power means. And power, to Huey P. Newton, he said, power is the ability to recognize phenomena and make it act in a desired manner. And that's what curating media is all about. The reason why we're trying to corrupt your systems and
corrupting.
Yes, exactly, Derek. You got it.
The system.
The reason why we're trying to corrupt your systems in the most player way possible is because we want to change the way you look at media. There's all of these companies, IGN out here. You have New Rockstars, which I do respect what they got going. You got The Verge. You got CNET, you got all of these different companies that are kind of curating your media. Even Box Office Mojo helps you get the numbers, okay? But no one is really helping you curate your media
the player way.
And that is what we're here for. We want to corrupt those systems, and we want to change your mind. We want to help you not change your mind, but help you understand how these news stories that we talk about, the things that are happening in the media, are a great litmus test. They are case studies for what the direction of your entertainment is going, and you are spending your earned money every single day in getting these things, in entertaining yourself. Okay, so that's what we're about doing. Okay, so as you hear what we're going on and what we're talking about through this podcast, keep that in mind. Okay. I got some other things going on. I'm kind of impassioned right now, but I'm gonna get back to those things in a minute. For now, let's go into the top 5. And talk a little bit about what Ian Robert Parsons has going on. But before we do that, I got weekend estimates, and really these are the weekend actuals coming up from this past weekend. James, you can pull that IG back up. As predicted, as we expected, The Nun took first place, and it finally knocked Crazy Rich Asians down. 53 million. It really came in at 53.5 million. Crazy Rich Asians, that has been reigning supreme, but they finally dropped down 13.5 just for the domestic on this weekend. Peppermint brung up a third place. I was really excited and surprised to see that, but they dropped the Meg down to 6 million, and then of course Searching rounded out at 4.5 million. So that's what you got going on there. Your weekend grosses on the domestic. Oh, and James showed me an update. There's breaking news. The update: Peppermint actually usurped Crazy Rich Asians. That's kind of crazy. Yeah, actually, they pieced them out, man.
But here's the thing, though. This was opening weekend for Peppermint and Crazy, and it only edged it by $300,000.
So you think Crazy Rich Asians gonna beat them next weekend?
I feel like it will be right back. Everyone will be laying where they should be. There's nothing wrong here.
All will be right with the world. Right?
Yes, and all will be right with the world again. Absolutely. The Asians will remain crazy rich, as always.
Yep.
So that's what's going on. Stereotypes are okay. I believe stereotypes are okay as long as it makes sense, and it not even makes sense, as long as it's flattering. Like, I'm okay with people believing that black people love nothing but fried chicken, because that is advantageous to me. I love fried chicken.
Hey, would you like some fried chicken? Excuse me, young
always.
Black man. Would you like?
Absolutely, always. I'm offended, but I'm hungry, and my hunger outweighs my anger. Exactly.
Yes.
All right.
What was it Dave Chappelle did? He was like, "How does he know?"
It's how does he know? Thank you, chicken. I'll do it for free. Speaking of top 5, and we're definitely moving on. I mentioned earlier Ian Robert Parsons.
Number 5.
Yes, the top 5 we're going in at Play Your Way Network. If you remember previously, we explained that this podcast is kind of like an amalgam of weekly top 5 podcasts and the Play Your Way podcast subsumed into one organism. And the leftovers we put back into the weekly top 5 articles. So that is back. Ian Robert Parsons is curating that in the most player way possible every single week. He did a great job. This week's was called the weekly top 5. We're back. Netflix best original series. So that's a great ranking. Derek, did you get a chance to look at that?
Oh yeah. This is great. I love that most of the shows that are on here are all ones that I've seen. I think there's only like a couple that I haven't actually seen. So to actually weigh in and to parallel what you were speaking to earlier, why does this matter to me? Oh, it's because I've seen these TV shows. So if you've seen them, if you have an interest on these type, this is going to give you a very good outline how to curate your Netflix TV shows.
The Player Way.
Indeed. I like that.
Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely.
I learned from one of the best in the game.
Exactly. So, James, if you can give us a kind of rundown of number 5 all the way down to number 4.
All right, so this is Ian.
Number 5.
Ian Parsons, number 5, and numero 5 is Narcos.
Number 4.
The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Number 3.
Stranger Things.
Number 2.
One of the OGs, Orange is the New Black.
And number 1.
And number 1 ended up being House of Cards while James is plugging in his laptop. It was like the battery is running low. I'll take it from there. House of Cards is number 1. Obviously, Ian had to say this. Yeah, I went there. House of Cards wasn't just big on Netflix. It was big in general. People subscribed to Netflix just to watch this. And you're right. It was a thrilling portrayal. What's crazy about this is this film, it's hard to even call it a series. It is a film experience, an episodic film experience. It was crazy because it was before Trump got into the White House. And it's kind of crazy how things are kind of happening in real life. It's one of those times where life is imitating art as opposed to art is imitating life. Would you agree with that, Derek?
I 100% agree. And personally, political dramas have never been glittering gold to me. I've never had an interest. Those type of shows, throwback to like The West Wing, those type of political geared dramas. And Kevin Spacey, yes, is who drew me in there. He's one of my favorite actors, aforementioned in the Player Way podcast. He's one of my favorite actors, and it drew me in. And man, Francis, his portrayal of Francis J. Underwood is incredible, and the entire show as a political drama just keeps you intrigued. You see the deep, dark underbelly. You have a wonderful view of it, and you just kind of have to, follow along. And you can't help it. And as Ian beautifully described, people subscribed just to watch this TV show. And
yeah, man, it completely changed the game. It was the moment when you saw this show above all of the others aforementioned. That was the time when you realized Netflix is now a player in the film industry. So that's the reason why it's on Weekly Movie Chat. And definitely Netflix is doing episodic series.
The Player Way.
Ian wanted me to mention on this podcast that if you disagreed with any of these, please keep in mind that we did not put anything on here that did not begin as an original series on Netflix. So stuff that began on Fox and
like
stuff
Arrested
like that,
Development.
Arrested Development does not count. We also didn't put anything on here that has a short shelf life. So something that hasn't been around for more than a season. For example, Mindhunter. Mindhunter is a great series, compelling, but it's only been around one season. Ozark is another one. It's in the middle of his second season for all intents and purposes. Mm-hmm. So
they're honorable
so that's
mentions.
where we're going. Exactly. And there's honorable mentions like Castlevania and such. So definitely go on there, and you can definitely always find Amazing Thing on the Play Your Way network.
Get the full story at PlayLifeYourWay.com.
Absolutely. All right. So now that we're moving in this direction, you heard about those top 5 films that shook out, and of course, The Nun is the film that ended up winning this week. And we want to get into a bit of a deep dive on The Nun for this week.
It's time to take a deep dive. The Player Way.
Deep dive. Okay, so if you remember, Deep Dive is a sequence that we used to do as a separate podcast. So what we're going to do now is we're using Deep Dive more so as to go deeper into something that is a headline. Obviously, the number one box office draw domestic is going to be something to talk about, especially because there was high anticipations for this film. As you look, though, at Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter is at 26%, and the audience score, that's the critical score, and then the audience score is at 49% below, so spilled popcorn all over the place. So how do you relegate that? You're saying, okay, this thing made over $50 million. Obviously, they're going to say it's the top movie in the country. That's going to be the narrative moving forward. And, James, you and I got in a little bit of debate about this before the podcast, right?
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
Because I believe that this was not a successful film, but your thought is...
Well, my thought is the way most people are going to think about it, especially the executives, is that the money speaks.
Dollars make sense.
Yeah.
Dollars make sense.
The money equates to success. And for those people that aren't up on, like Rotten Tomatoes, they don't pay attention to those kind of things, like what the critics think, and they don't necessarily look at all the reviews. They're going to see on TV, because what's going to be happening, like you just said, from now on, every trailer, every commercial, everything that they put in the ads, number one movie of the weekend, number one movie in the country, that will draw people to go see it again.
Yep.
They will draw new people to see it the following weekend, and it still has the potential to top next weekend or this coming weekend.
It's all about, like Derek said, dollars make
Hold on,
sense. Ain't that
James.
right, bro?
I'm going to put you in the concrete, James. Are you right now telling me that that's going to beat Predator next week? Right now. Say it. Admit it.
Hey.
You said it has potential.
Well, hold on.
Yeah,
Before we go there,
you know what? I'm sorry, man. You just got me all stirred up.
Let's just hold there right now because we got James's box office hustle report for the month of September at the end of the show. So without even realizing it, Derek did an amazing transition, and we'll anticipate what his answer is at the end of the show. So you got to stick around if you want to hear what he thought. But Derek, were there anything? What were you expecting out of this film as a guy who was like, I don't know, I'm gonna have to wait on this one?
And that's right. And I wanted that fear. I wanted to hear about terror, and I wanted to actually have the deep dive into the story, but I wanted to make sure that it still held true to the film series. The Conjuring, Annabelle. I wanted to make sure I still had that essence in there, because films such as Conjuring, they have a certain energy surrounding them. Much like Insidious, you have a certain feeling while you're sitting there in the theater while you're watching it. They all have a certain familiarity to it, and that's what really draws you into the actual film series itself. So it drew me into Insidious because it did take you back. And same thing here with Conjuring, the whole series. Once I did kind of start hearing the early reviews on that it's possibly kind of a departure from that was almost an immediate roadblock for me, because that was what I was looking for.
Right. So let's talk about that, for example. Okay, so this is going directly to the crux of what our main topic, our main discussion point of this. Remember, the name of the podcast is Have Filmmakers Lost the Art of Authenticity, Part 1, and we're going to focus on drama in this episode. We're going to talk about comedic and comedy next podcast, okay? So, for all intents and purposes, our mission is to use today's film as a case study for our hypothesis. And our hypothesis is that our hypothesis is that something has happened. That something that has happened is that there's a new generation making films now, okay? Everyone who's putting out films now, they have been films of epic $1 million franchises, okay? Why that's a little different is because the generation before, while they had an adoration for filmmakers, filmmaking was something that was very BTS or behind the scenes. You didn't know a lot about it, and you had to know somebody to get into the business. You had to be friends with the Barrymores, and you had to be friends with the right people in the industry to kind of be around that. And you kind of were crafted to be a part of that industry. You were molded over time. But now you got a lot of people who are outsiders who some people have no formal training. They have a little bit of training, or they have a lot of training, but their reasoning for getting into film is a little different. Let's look about films of our generation. When we were growing up, think about this, for example. We're in our mid-30s, okay? We were the people out making film right now are our age, slightly younger or older, but we're right in that right fingers on the pulse age group. You know, when we were watching films like The Matrix, we understood that it was setting the tone for the postmodern epic. Films like Memento and The Sixth Sense set the tone for suspense and horror moving forward for a new generation. Even Absolutely. Titanic, as much as I roll my eyes about Titanic was the basis for how to elevate the romance genre, to elevate to such a level that movies like first coming along was like Walk to Remember with Mandy Moore. I know it sounds weird, and it was something that we didn't really pay attention to. But if you watched it, that was like the first film in a long time since Titanic where you started seeing like there's this girl who, you know, you think you're taking your girlfriend to a little, you know, rom-com type of movie, and you find out the girl at the end of it's going to die. That doesn't happen before Titanic.
Spoilers.
You know what I'm saying? The last time you saw something like that was Steel Magnolias. And that was, and again, Steel Magnolias was a different generation, and it was a different time. It wasn't a romantic comedy. No. It was more of a family tale. It was more like A Color Purple, but for like white women. You know what I'm saying? It was different. Then, you know, Titanic inspired A Walk to Remember. It inspired The Notebook, which, as we know,
I was going to say The Notebook.
The Notebook. This Is Us, even. This Is Us is even inspired by Titanic. Because we learned through Titanic that in the pursuit of love, we must also risk and take the pain of losing that love someday. Okay, that is what Titanic is all about. And I get chills thinking about that. If you've ever been in love, if you have kids, if you have a wife, at some point you're going to lose that. Titanic talks about that. And to lose it too soon is just what gets people to watch that all over and over again. And then moving on to one of our best films of all time, Derek and I, films like The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile show you how to take a story that is mired in tragedy, but turn it on its head just enough to trick the audience into believing it's a tale of inspiration and hope. These movies didn't
100% accurate.
These don't. There's no good ending for the men in this. You know, the man who gets out of Shawshank is going to be on the run for the rest of his life. Both of them. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
And you know how this is going to end. They're going to get caught one day. You know what I'm saying? But you don't care about that. There's this hope that they might make it someday, or even down to the big black guy in The Green Mile. I mean, you believe because of the magic that he had that there's a better place for him to go to. And because of the little mouse and Tom Hanks' character, you believe there's a little bit of magic out there for all of us, even in a world that is so obsessed with things that don't matter. So
just to even forgive my interjection, but
go ahead, man.
That's such a beautiful point, and it inspired a few thoughts in me. As you mentioned, Shawshank Redemption, it appears as if that is the happy ending. However, the reality, as we all know, is it will be looking over his shoulder. It's awesome that you made it to Zihuatanejo, but you're going to be over your shoulder your whole life. The Green Mile, yes, it gives you just enough hope without actually having to show you the scenes that actually have the hope. It's just a little taste, which left you with that feeling, even though both of those films are really tragedies, complete tragedies.
Absolutely,
so much tragedy.
So thank you
in both of those films.
Man,
absolutely,
for sure.
Man. So as we're talking about this, Derek. So now we're talking about the basis for films that inspired future generations of film. Are we on the same page, everyone?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what caused me to go into this direction with the conversation is Derek specifically said that he knew that this film was going to be a departure from the original Conjuring series, right? Absolutely. Here's how you should have known, and we're going to give you a little bit of an exclusive.
The Player Way.
Exclusive.
If you want to learn how to curate your entertainment the Player Way, you have to learn to underneath the underneath, okay? You have to read between the lines. If you notice, what is the tagline, and James, we talked about this, so don't answer. I'm going to give it to Derek an opportunity to corrupt the system, okay? What is the tagline from the original Conjuring film and Conjuring 2, as well as the first Annabelle movie, that is not in the advertising for The Nun?
Let me take a gander. The original tagline for The Conjuring, based on the true case files of the Warrens. Is that what we're talking about?
Corrupting
Came through with
the
the
system.
Based on the true case files of the Warrens.
If you go and look at the advertising for The Nun, and what's funny is James and I didn't even notice this until we came out of the film, and we said, you know what? We should have known better. There was no tagline as far as inspired by the true case files of the Warren for The Nun. Okay. And even as you get through, because James even looked at this later on, he looked at subsequent posters. We know that they said that in subsequent films after The Conjuring, but they slowly start to erase that tagline from the posters moving forward. Okay. So even though at the very end of The Nun, there's a little bit of a Easter egg from the first and a nod to the first Conjuring film, there's nothing to say that anything that happened in The Nun was inspired by anything that actually happened in real life. Okay? That is an exclusive.
Exclusive. The player way.
Exclusive.
So, Derek, what does that mean?
That means that they could do whatever they wanted and go buck wild on this one. If they're not even
absolutely
basing it on anything, they could just do what they want.
And on top of that, what it means for us is it means that it's a departure from reality, not just from the story, because the story is the story. If it is inspired by true case files, then that means that it's somewhat based in a story that someone heard, okay? And if
it
it's
brings
based
it at
on,
least to something
it's grounded,
somewhat tangible.
Even
yes.
if the audience that the based on true events, even if that is somewhat based on like this idea that if you believe in ghostesses and stuff, then this is real for you. But even the real demon Valak doesn't necessarily look like the nun. Okay? It's just, and as you watch this film, in a weird way, this film, not only is it just a departure from the reality, and not only is it just a departure from, which obviously all films like these, disclaimer, we understand it's supposed to be a disclaimer for reality slightly, but it's supposed to make you question maybe this did happen, and maybe the best found footage films even are the ones that make you feel like maybe this happened at some point in that time. And that's where the terror comes from. In this film, at no time do you believe that any of this actually happened. It has this tone without saying it at the beginning of the film. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there was this priest. And the priest, the really nice priest, heard that there was an evil spirit in a faraway land, and he had to go find the princess nun to help him banish the evil. And so the princess nun and the priest went to the, and that's how it feels throughout the film. And now, and I'll keep talking about all these departures. There's another departure, because even the way in which they animate ghosts, they look like zombies in this. They are corporeal bodies, Derek. There are times where a guy can take a shotgun out and shoot a ghost and it explodes. Okay. Where does that ever happen in The Conjuring?
Never, because that's part of the terror of the fact that you can't physically impact this thing that can physically attack you. Part of the terror, of the mental stress.
So if you could just blow them all up, you could just go over there and set the thing on fire and kill them all.
Yep, go on about your night.
Go on about your night. Not only that, but how they banish and again, this is a spoiler alert, but how they banish the demon is through the blood of Jesus. Oh, it's like how, like, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that as a guy who's somewhat Christian. If you know, I believe I'm Christian, but you know, some people may say I'm not so much. I don't fit the criteria, but I understand the need of that. But it pulls out. It's like being the kid at recess who says, "I'm the Green Ranger," and you're like, "Okay, well, I'm the Black Ranger." Okay, well, I'm the Green Ranger and the Black Ranger together. Well, you can't be both. Like, the kid who can't play nice, you can always just make something up. Well, I'm the Rainbow Ranger now, and I have all the powers of all of you, and I beat you all right now. Like, you pull out the blood of Jesus, and it's like, well, then why is there a Conjuring 2 in 1?
Rainbow Ranger.
Why did
Valak come back? Does the blood of Jesus not kill everything? Like, I mean...
And especially if they were presented with the idea...
The fact that it exists anywhere on Earth means anything near it should not be. But where the blood of Jesus exists is where the most demons in the world are. That is just the weirdest thing to me. I would think they'd want to be away from that, like on the exact other side of the vernal equinox.
Guys, when do we need to go hunting for vampires? Let's wait till midnight and we'll go look for all the vampires that are right in their house. Like, it's the same principle and the mentality of it. And it does beg a question with, now, were you saying like a physical weapon was harming a ghost, or was a physical weapon harming a demon?
Go ahead, James.
So the way they did it was, the demon was able to possess dead bodies.
Okay.
Zombie.
So in a sense, zombies. So that's how you get the physical bodies that are able to be shot or hurt. But
I'm sorry, James.
that's how they did it. It's basically
Rest in peace, cranberries.
the demon itself. The demon had this power to reanimate dead bodies, essentially.
It is, and so what you have is for lack of a better term, you have zombies throughout
Reanimated
the
dead
film.
bodies. It's not like you're right.
To the point where one zombie demon bites somebody and infects them with the demon. Like it's a zombie movie. It's like weird. It's like the weirdest zombie movie. And then on top of that, just not to get off track too much, because I told James.
And what's crazy is that's a great.
I am getting all the way turned up.
Yeah.
That's a good premise. That's a good idea of a premise. But we saw it before in Fallen.
Series.
No,
we saw it before in Fallen. And it's traveled by touch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
If it were presented that way from the beginning, then that might be different. But it's not.
Yeah.
It's not presented in that fashion to you in any way, shape, or form.
Exactly. Thank you, James. You definitely summed that up.
The player way.
So 2 more points, and then we'll move on with what my point is. Point number 2 is well, I've made several, but 2 until 1. So if we're counting down, this would be number 2.
Number 2.
All right. So the number 2 one is that there's this, because of the time period in which the nun happens, and it happens in a weirder time period than you expect. You expect that this happened a long, long time ago, right? And the way they kind of sell it and pitch it is happened a long time ago. Oh, nay. As my mother-in-law would say, nay. This happened while the Warrens were alive, apparently. Like, it just happened on the other side of the world. And the events of the first Conjuring, there are events in the first Conjuring that led up to this happening. So you think this is happening long, long ago? It's happening while the first Conjuring is happening. Essentially, it leads to it, which is weird, and it begs a lot of questions, because they have Vera Farmiga's daughter playing the lead character, and they allude without saying it, because of the timeline plot hole. They can't say that she's a reincarnation of Elizabeth Warren. Mm-hmm. But they kind of hit you over the head with, like, maybe the reason why Valak wants Mrs. Warren is because she looks like the nun that killed her. Like, it's and even there's times where the nun emotes in the same way that Elizabeth Warren does later on down the line. Her name is Elizabeth Warren, right? I'm just made up Elizabeth.
The Conjuring character?
Yeah. I think it's Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, let me check.
We'll fix it.
But
James is going to fact check that for me. We need facts and receipts, as Derreck would say. We want to corrupt the system in the right ways, right? But anyway,
right way.
What's going on there is there's this weird kind of...
Ed and Lorraine?
I was going to say,
Lorraine.
that might not be her name at all, because that is the name of a Senator Elizabeth Warren.
That's where I got that from.
Congressman, I think. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so like my emotional recall pulled it from somewhere. It wasn't just completely.
I was like, wait a minute.
So it's Lorraine Warren?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lorraine Warren. Okay. So Lorraine Warren, at least I had the thought to say, that sounds wrong, instead of doing this whole podcast the wrong way, for people to laugh at me later on down the line. So thank you guys for
laugh at him. Laugh at him.
Hey, laugh at him. Exactly. But no. Lorraine Warren, it's funny that Lorraine, you know what's funny? Most people listening to this podcast probably thought her name was Elizabeth. The way I said that, I bet her name is.
Such conviction.
She said it with such confidence, man.
You did that thing so swell.
So swell.
I would have, if you had said that, I would have said Elizabeth Warren down the line, arguing with somebody. Yeah. So anyway, that's how you got to do it, man. You got to have conviction.
I mean, it sound right.
Exactly. And that's the thing. There was no conviction when it comes to where this falls in the timeline. You think that Valak, this is an origin story for Valak. No. Valak is alive and kicking it. Like, Valak is doing his thing, like kicking it, wild style. He is, take over a whole convent. Like, that's how strong Valak is.
I'm here to...
Exactly. And they never, yes.
I mean, he really did. Yeah.
And he never, you never even hear, I don't think you hear Valak's name ever, not once in the movie.
You hear it once because the priest is researching researching the books that he found.
But he doesn't use Valak's name against it the way you're supposed to use it. Because
No.
When you call out a demon's name, you use it against it.
None of that. It was just, you did hear the name.
Yes, and then you do get a cute little tongue-in-cheek Easter egg. Like, there's like a moment at the very beginning of the film where you see a car driving away, which is how that kind of gives away when it happens. That's when you should realize it's more modern, because there's a pickup truck.
Car.
Yeah, there's a pickup truck, and then on the license plate you see Valak in like different numerical alphabetical combinations. Alphanumeric. Yeah, I didn't want to say hexadecimal because that would have been wrong. But anyway, so that was that. So that was a weird timeline. You didn't quite know where that fell, and therefore this is not an origin film. So if you're looking for an origin film, you definitely are not going to be just getting the right thing. So you got to move on there. And then finally, the number one reason that this film doesn't make any sense.
And number one.
The conventions of telling a story like this are that the first person you see on screen and spend time understanding their origin story, Derek, what are they?
Well, you want to just know when, where, why, and how. And with regards to what everything that you're saying, it sounds like that's not even how it even
well,
opens.
you expect this to be the main character, or like at least the main bad guy, like some character that is of significance, right?
Protagonist or antagonist. You want one of the two.
Or somebody that is saying, we are setting up for this person who is the chosen one. Like, there is no indication, by all indication, at the very beginning of this film, like I said, long ago in a land far away, there was this priest. Like, so you think the movie is about
and
this
Clarence
priest.
parents got a real good marriage.
Exactly. And when they go to Clearbrook, which is a private school, to get this nun, it's like, it's weird because the nun, she's not even a nun yet. She's the nunya. You know, like she's not even like, she doesn't even believe in all of the Bible stories. Like, there's a thing at the very beginning. So they're trying to do that with the story. And so you expect that this priest is going to bring her along and help her and be her watcher, like on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But no, this guy is scared as crap. Like he is afraid to go in the convent. He is scared every time something happens. He gets his butt kicked. There's this random character that keeps popping up that apparently he failed. They don't explain it, but he apparently failed to exorcise the demons from somebody, and they're back trying to kill him through this movie.
That's the priest character.
Yeah.
And what they do is somehow Valak, either that was an incarnation of Valak that he was unable to.
But the fact that you guys don't even have any clarity, that speaks volumes.
You know what I mean? And to talk about movies as much as we know, we're still lost. We still don't quite understand
there's a couple of loose connections they try to make.
And James is the one who called it out. The reason they put this in there is obviously because
it seems like they want to make him sort of the continuity for like the continuing of the series.
Yeah, so like they're going to do another Valak movie with him trying to get Valak, but like further back.
Yeah.
And then I guess the trilogy one will be when we finally get to find out where Valak comes from. Like, it's weird. It's the weirdest thing. So
totally reversed.
Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, if you want to know if you should see this film, if you, as I said on Instagram, if you've seen this franchise and you're invested, obviously it's going to kill you not to see this, and you're one of the $50 million that, was spent on this, and $131 million worldwide. So obviously they duped us and they got us big time. The butt of the joke is on us. But yeah, they definitely corrupted our system.
Corrupting the system.
In the Conjuring universe.
So technically, this movie's already a hit.
It's already a hit because, and again, that goes back to,
that's the rhetoric.
Thank you for helping us bring it full circle.
Yeah.
To have filmmakers lost the art of authenticity, okay? So, it's our personal mission at Weekly Movie Chat, as an extension of Play Your Way Network, is to help you recognize the case studies, the headlines that are out there, the phenomena that's happening, and helping you make your entertainment work for you in a desired manner, not in a way that helps out the people that are trying to steal your money. Because there's this trend, and that's a podcast, but there's this trend of like, let's just make it and we'll make our money, and who cares if they like it or not. Okay, that's a little bit of reverse.
Corrupting the system.
And we definitely don't want that. We want to make it work in our desired manner, and that's what we're here to do. So when I'm talking about these, I mentioned all of these awesome movies from back in the day, and I gave you the premise, there's this hypothesis that all of the filmmakers that are out here doing it right now, they are inspired. James Wan, who wrote this story, Gary Dauberman, these are people who were inspired. They wrote this story and then they moved on, inspired by previous incarnations of stories that inspired us when we were younger. And what I'm seeing moving forward, is that you look at a director like Corin Hardy who did this. I'm not sure what he did before that. James, can you pull it up? But to me, it seems that you got a lot of, he's got the hipster look too. They've got a lot of people who are out here.
He says what we're all thinking.
He's got that look. He's got, he is public enemy number one of what I'm about to say, which is
people
a
Cobb
who,
salad,
they're out here making a job out of what they're doing. And I respect that, okay? Everybody's got to work. Everybody's got to make money to get their chinos and their fake bike chain and their white Tic Tac shoes to go with their all black suits. I get it. You got to do it. It costs money to look kind of like when you squint, Jack Sparrow, Johnny Deppish. It takes money to look that way. So I respect the grind, bro. I respect what you're trying to do, but I would really push everyone to think about how films are made now, specifically in theaters, okay? There's a lot of stuff that's out there that it's like, why did they make this? Who did they make this for? When you talk about Power Rangers, the most lasting impression I have about that movie to this day, my memory of that movie is Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme.
That is what I remember of that film. In what world is the lasting impression of Rita Repulsa and Zed and the Day of the Dumpster and the Black Ranger and the Green Ranger and everything? Krispy Kreme! What the hell is going on?
That's right.
Yes, I will mark that one too.
Yeah, well, no, really? It's hell. It's okay.
I'm right with you in there. The biggest thing I remember from that are just moody teenagers, these school scenes. It took us forever to even see the suits in that.
And Derek, you're hitting on it. Moody teenagers. Finally, the buildup of seeing the suits, going back to the nun, the blood of Jesus in somewhere, female empowerment in that only the nuns can go in this part of the convent, even though they specifically sent him out there to do the investigation. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of ideas in movies that are great premises, and that's what you have. You have all of these films out here that are premises, but they're not stories. Okay?
All these appetizers, and we ain't got no meals.
Yeah, it's like, wouldn't it be cool if we did this, or if we did that, or if we did that? It's very music.
Yeah, let's
video
put it in.
Director.
Yeah, let's put that in. Yeah, let's put that in.
It's very music video director.
Well,
that's what when you direct a music video, as I've directed over a dozen of them. Okay. That's what you do with a music video. You obviously are going to try to make a more overarching story, but because your audio track is over the dialogue of it, the only way you can make a music video into a short film is to do what Michael Jackson did, which is to take breaks away from the music and have dialogue, okay? But most music videos you have out there, like the entire production of Suicide Squad, which was re-edited by a music video and trailer company, all right? Mm-hmm. It's all about getting the right ideas in a short period of time so that people get the adulation that you want.
100% accurate. And you mentioned earlier the hipster director Corin Hardy. Looking at his filmography, he doesn't have a long resume, definitely nothing this big. everything is a video short, video short, video short, video short. So he took that to the Silva screen, obviously, and he took that.
I didn't even know that. I
didn't
not
even know that.
I didn't even look at
but your artistic eye
before the moment we
right
watched this movie, and I did no research. I can promise you guys, I am definitely helping you look at phenomena and make it act in a desired manner.
The player way.
Everything else, anything that he wrote, it was all video shorts. He did a music video with Ed Sheeran. You know
and that's
what
we're trying to help you do with this weekly movie chat podcast, man. We don't want you to just listen and get news and reviews. We want to help you learn to curate your content, okay? So that you can corrupt the system.
Corrupting the system.
You don't want to go into a movie. I'm not going to say that you don't want to, but when you go into a movie, yes, you want to go see a cool story. However, you also want to know what you're stepping into. Just like a meal, you want to know who prepared this meal. Where'd you get the ingredients from? What type of ingredients are you putting together so I can ingest
Are
this?
you using A1 Wagyu beef? What did you feed? You want to know a pedigree of a director. You want to, and I get it. As a person who is not totally into formal education, I'm not saying that an education is everything. I'm not saying that you got to go to college and go to film school.
You got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere, but don't start. But don't start at The Nun, which is like the third or fourth film in a franchise.
Somebody gave him the job.
Someone gave him the job, and I get that. But the problem with that is
I can't even understand what they based it on, though. Honestly.
Well, but again, I understand it's not necessarily the studio's fault. It's just the style of how films are made now. And filmmakers have lost the art of authenticity. It's about understanding what scares people. Again, what would have scared me more in this film is believing that the whole idea of Valak came from somewhere. Okay, if you go back to The Lost Ones, okay, if you go back to Paranormal Activity, that entire series, everything they put in there is based on something that someone heard from something else, and you can go and find it. And if not, they took time to invest in viral marketing so that if you go to look for it after the film, there's a fake website there that makes you think that you should believe in Harvey Dent. Okay, there's something there. There's some substance. And so what I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, with all due respect, I'm trying to help you understand that there's a reason why we prefer Netflix now. Because when you have to tell a long-form story over 12 to 24 episodes, you can't put a lot of BS in there, okay? It's got to be grounded in something. To take a long-form story and stretch it out over 20 films and end it all in a snap, you gotta give us something. There's got to be some meat and potatoes to base that on, okay? And so as we look for the films, I think we as a culture have to get better at looking at the directors. As Derek said, who is serving our food? Would you go to a place that had a 70% on their food grade score? Probably not. Okay.
Exactly. And James Wan only having a writing role on this, you can tell the huge difference. He directed Insidious. He directed Insidious Chapter 2. He directed Conjuring 1 and 2. Furious 7. Saw. Dead Silence. You see Death Sentence. You see the tone. So Aquaman is going to be his deviation from his style. That's going to be the difference, jumping in. I'm curious.
Something else. And as the man, and it's perfect segue. Derek even has the Aquaman hat on right now, thanks to Corrupting the Christum.
Oh, Corrupting the Christum!
I stole that from you.
Oh,
hey,
man,
Chris,
that's my Christendom,
bro.
Corrupting the system.
Y'all don't know that's my Christendom.
Exactly.
Christendom.
Shout out to the number one fan out there. But anyway, getting back to it, when that's another. When we go and watch Aquaman, we got to be careful because a guy who is a suspense horror guy is now about to do a superhero film.
That's right.
Should we expect so much from that? Okay. So anyway, as we talk about from week to week,
conspiracy. But what if it's a conspiracy? Conspiracy.
conspiracy theory behind all of this, okay, is really understanding that you have to, nowadays, there's too much information out there. There's so much information out there. Back in the day, to get a film made was a hard thing, but technology is become ubiquitous. It is easy to get in there. It is easy to get in there and do really well in one medium and hop over into another medium. So
easier,
so easier for sure. So as a consumer, you have to be a little bit more educated than you have been before, and that's the reason in episode of Weekly Movie Chat, episode 3. We changed the title up. We're changing the way we're doing it. And we're definitely helping you understand that we're going to speak with more power. We're going to do our research. We're going to make sure that when we come, we're going to speak with power. And we're going to do it in the most player way possible.
The player way.
Okay. So that's what's going on there. Speaking of which, and this really heads more toward giving a little tease of what we're going to be talking about. And the second part of this discussion, now that we've laid this glorious framework, is The Predator. There was an article that came up. In fact, James and I, we were over at, was it Bad Daddy's?
Yeah, Bad Daddy's Burgers or something like that.
Yeah, Bad Daddy's Burgers. Yeah. It's like our favorite watering hole near where.
Shout out to.
Yeah, shout out to Bad Daddy's, pointing at the microphone. Exactly. But we love to go there. We met a really cool dude named David who wears. Dude, not only did he have the two tall cans of Budweiser, he had the Budweiser shirt and had holes in his jeans slit so that you could see his Budweiser boxers. This dude was all out.
Sponsored by.
Yes, exactly. And like, if you know how we are, Derek. Okay, you know how you and I think. Oh, yeah. I'm looking across the bar at this guy, Caddy Wampus from us, and I'm talking to James, and I'm like, it's something about an old white dude with a scruffy beard, just laced in Budweisers, and there's all of this craft beer and great alcohol, and he chooses to drink tall cans in the can still of Budweiser, and they serve it to him in the tall cans. What bar does that? They usually pour it out into something. He runs this whole place, and as we're saying this, like, this black lady manager walks up, and she's giving him hugs and everything, and he notices we're talking about us, and so he's witty, he's smart, comes over, buys us shots, and shots of Fireball, by the way. Yeah, and then which was awesome, and we got to talk it up and chop it up a little bit. And so while we're discussing all of this, the Hollywood Reporter, right after the updates of Serena Williams losing, which we were watching at that time, then an update about The Predator, this article, Olivia Munn hasn't heard from director Shane Black in the wake of Predator controversy. Like, what is this Predator controversy? Apparently, I don't know if you've heard about this, Derek, and I heard about it last week, but I didn't really know how close to home it was, but apparently they hired a registered sex offender to be an actor in the film, and they didn't decide to do anything about it or fact check it or get any receipts until the film was already edited, and now it's about to be out to the public.
That's right, and she brought it. She said the first person that she spoke to was her lawyer, and then she spoke to her manager. Olivia Munn is who I'm speaking of, just to refresh you. And then,
shout out to Olivia Munn.
Shout out to Olivia Munn, killing that Psylocke outfit back in the day. But because she was. But she said that was her first decision, and then they were like, all right, we're taking out the scene that you're in there with them. Simple as that. But the fact, with the recent Me Too movement, not that that's the recent mentality, bestiality, and behavior to be as accurate as possible, with the Me Too movement gaining so much traction, momentum, and the fact that she had to bring it up to even, where was the fact checking? Where was that? And that's really what is going to beg the question. That's what you can tell with the interview and the article that we read on this, where she's just like, she makes the statement, I'm not okay with people who harm children or animals. That's her mentality. That's her baseline. That's her foundation. I can respect that. But that's really, you can tell the impact of that statement warranted a scene to be pulled out of a movie that releases in a few days.
and producer James highlighted this part of the article where Fox executives, which they don't say which Fox executive it was, so because they don't want to have any paper trail, but it says spokesperson, of course. We were not aware of his background during the casting process due to legal limitations that impede studios from running background checks on actors. That's like the next Me Too movement initiative right there. Well, it's like it's not our
checks
fault.
On all actors.
You need to go over. Yeah, you need to go on the legal limitations that impede studios from running background checks on actors. So, and that's a whole nother can of worms because let's not even get on the black and brown people who have records, who are out here. Shout out to Tretch. Shout out to
that's the thing. It's like
where does it stop?
At some point.
Exactly. But so you would think that this is the thing that we're going to talk about this week. Oh, nay. We're talking about the things that really matter, which is the part in the article where they specifically say Shane Black's highly anticipated reimagining of, so first of all, reimagining, that's the first time I've heard that, of Fox's Predator franchise, a comedic take on the sci-fi thriller starring Boyd Holbrook, Olivia Munn, Sterling K. Brown, Jacob Tremblay, and a cast of other, characters. So we talked about this a little bit, okay? We talked about this a little bit when the trailer first came out, and you and Nate were excited about this, and I was like, why is Keegan-Michael Key in this film? And I believe Nate, it's somebody, I don't know who it was, but it was either on the podcast or off the podcast, but someone was saying, well, yeah, because of Jordan Peele taking his step toward, doing things a little bit more seriously, maybe this is Keegan-Michael Key's step in that right direction.
And from the trailer, it is not serious. The role.
The latest trailer.
The role he's playing.
The latest trailer. Yeah. You're seeing, Sterling K. Brown. Basically, well, I like the name Predator better, so we're gonna go with that. It's like, oh, y'all are doing this with it. Y'all are going Jason X with this.
They're going Flash with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And see, the thing is, when I read the comedic take, I was a little confused because Shane Black has a long action film resume. This guy directed all the Lethal Weapons. This guy directed Last Action Hero. He directed Iron Man 3, which is what really gave me the most hope for the Predator. His direction in Iron Man 3, I was like, I feel like he could really take a lot of the aura, the orange aura from this.
I see his aura, and it's orange.
And this guy, he has acting movie chops.
Yes, dude, check this out. James Producer just pulled up the tomato meter on this. They already have reviews, and the top critics are saying the critics' consensus is the Predator's energetic blend of black humor and fast-paced action hits just hard enough to nudge its waylaid franchise back on track while setting up sequels to come. 50% is at this with a 56% tomato meter when you get to all critics. While 90%
ahead of
the people who are on here want to see it. That is not good. Scroll down a little bit more. There was this one critic had an amazing take on this. It's William Bibiani with the rap. He says, as we learn over the course of the film why the Predators keep coming back to Earth, we also see that Black doesn't take the stories and themes that the previous Predator movies explored seriously either.
And that's crazy because this guy was making action movies when going exactly with what you're talking about authenticity. When I think of action movies, some late 80s, early 90s, obviously, but mostly 90s movies come to mind. I think of 90s, Die Hard, anything with Arnold Schwarzenegger back in it, those type of things. And for that to be said about this particular franchise, which got dabbled in with the Alien versus Predator and those things to try to jumpstart it, it curbs my enthusiasm.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's. I had to double check for a second just based on the font choice and everything with the poster. I had to just double check Battleship to make sure Shane Black didn't have anything to do with that film.
Man, bro. These are all facts.
Shades, man, and receipts, my brother. So yeah. So again, this goes to what we're talking about. If the Predator for sure has comedic tones, you can best be for sure that we're going to talk about this a little bit more in the second half of the Have Filmmakers Lost the Art of Authenticity. But we're going to talk a little bit about comedy and how that works and what is funny and what's not funny and the nexus of that, the genesis of that. But we hope that, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, that you got something out of this episode. And before we completely leave you, we want to correct your system one last time with the box office hustle return.
Yeah, let's do that.
Quiet on the set. Can we please have quiet on the set?
Yes, can I have your attention, please? Box office.
All right, it's time for the box office hustle.
All right, cut and print. Beautiful guy.
At least once a month, we're going to round out the episode with a piece of journalism that producer James, for lack of a better term, produces once a month, and it kind of runs down his top picks in terms of box office success. Not necessarily what he thinks is the best, although he might put some stuff higher on the list that he thinks should be better. But this list is completely curated by James. We're going to pass the show to him for a second. This is called the Box Office Hustle for the month of September. Give it to him, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, this is the September Box Office Hustles. And basically we do like a top 5 movies what I think are going to do well in the box office. As I stated in the article, if you read it at playyourwaypodcast.com.
Absolutely.
That this is a list of not what the best films are for the month, but what I think will do the best at the box office.
And where did you say they can find this again?
At the playyourwaypodcast.com or playyourway.com.
Or playlifeyourway.com.
That's right.
Get the full story at playlifeyourway.com.
Absolutely. All of those URLs will get you there, and we got the facts and the receipts. Ain't that right, D?
So many ways.
Ka-ching! That's right.
Exactly. Oh, I'll give it to you. All right, so do you want a little bit of countdown action?
All right, starting this list off.
Number 5.
All right, so at number 5, we come in with House with the Clock in Its Walls. It's going to be released on September 21st. Some of these on the list are in a particular order because of when their release dates are, not so much because they would have less time in the box office to actually create some money.
Yeah, to reign supreme by the end. And this is he's saying what's going to make the most money from start to finish
of September.
We got you.
So here we go.
Number 4.
And then number 4 is White Boy Rick. White Boy Rick is actually based on a true story of a guy in a white guy.
Immediately
named,
changes
Rick
your
Wersch
mentality of a film.
In 1980s Detroit.
And you know Matthew McConaughey, when he gets in a true story, you know that's money right there.
And Matthew McConaughey is the anchor of that movie, so
everybody in the 313. You know what I'm saying?
Put your hands all together and vibe with me.
Number 3.
Number 3, the movie we were just talking about, Predator, because that separates it from the original.
And look at what
Predator.
James wrote there. Look. You should never serve your own sake. Let me serve this up for you. This is what James wrote.
I'm looking at it right now. Yes,
at Play Away Podcast. Look, you read it, D.
The Predator is a reimagining, as he puts in quotes, of the 1980s sci-fi horror action classic starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. In this reboot, directed by Shane Black, the Predators, alien sport hunters, return to Earth bigger, badder, and better than they have ever, after upgrading themselves by genetically altering their DNA with that of an other species. The government puts a team of disgraced ex-soldiers, a suicide squad, if you will, and a science teacher, to fend off the Predators.
Yeah,
there it is.
Hey,
it
because chicks really dig science teachers that can change reality.
Well, and that's Olivia Munn's character.
Oh,
and also,
really? Also, so she's okay. She's Walter White.
Yes,
okay,
she's the science.
And also, we need a Predator with a cod piece.
Why?
We've been lacking with that.
Hold on. Let's talk about this for a second. Why can't she be an ex-military person?
Because she's been badass.
Like we just got
X-Men
through.
and all that.
Look. Homeboy from The Office just got an awesome part playing Jack Ryan. He's just an analyst, but he has a history. I bet not go into this movie and she don't have a backstory that gives her something more. If she really is just a teacher, this is going to be like a replay of Green Lantern, where the science teacher gets to be a part of the bigger thing, and he messes everything up and turns into the big bad alien. It's a family show. I'm trying not to cuss, but yeah,
Look at that.
he had a lot on his mind. He was ahead of his class.
Ahead of the curve.
Oh no.
Let's not get.
That's awesome.
All right.
That's
We're getting
awesome.
ahead of ourselves. Come on.
So,
All right, we're getting back to it. We're getting back. We got to get back on track.
let's head back to
Number
the beginning.
2.
All right. So number 2 is starring Kevin Hart and Tiffany Haddish.
AKA the black vote.
Yes,
Takes number 2.
Much anticipated comedy Night School.
Hey, we're honest on this show, man.
So Night School is number 2 mainly because it releases September 28th. So it's only going to have one weekend to come.
And in one weekend, it will eclipse every other film
It has
underneath
one
it.
weekend to come close to what to what my number 1 is going to do, which I just kind of gave away.
Nathaniel, go in the car and get them 2 dimes.
But
I want to see this movie. We're going to see this movie.
This movie's going to be big because both of these comedians are like crossover. They have a huge following. Kevin Hart, Tiffany Haddish, power team right now.
The 2
comedy.
blackest actors
actors ever.
face
Black
of the planet today. Together.
So it may
In a
not,
movie about a black man who doesn't
he
have
doesn't
his
have his
GED.
GED. Right. She's got to get it.
And the black woman who has to angrily help him. Like, what you mean you don't have your GED?
So despite how
You need to
bad,
get your life
Join
together.
us
So
as we
despite
go through the watermelon
how
eating
bad this
contest,
movie might
the
be.
fried chicken taste test, and of course, who has the best
You
James?
said watermelon
Kevin
eating
Hart,
contest?
Tiffany Haddish, and Night School.
And number 1.
is that part of the PE course is the
Move it
watermelon
on.
eating contest?
All
All right, so
Number 1.
That's how you get your PE credit. Anyway, number 1 is
Watermelon. Hold on for just a second. The watermelon contest
The water-
is the PE
The
credit
PE
at the
credit,
very end.
yeah.
So you mean they're gonna do
PE and home ec.
like
at the same
every
time.
other like Adam Sandler or like what's the name of that movie? What is the name of that movie?
Stand By Me?
You My Boy Blue?
Old
School.
Old School.
Old school.
Yeah, they're gonna have like a thing at the very end where their SAT is actually some physical competition, like Double Dare. That's how you get your GED in real life. Then you go out there and you decide you're gonna get your GED and like it's nothing like this.
Anyway,
All right, what
back
were we
on
at
track.
again?
Number 1.
And number 1.
And number 1, of course, is The Nun. As you can already tell, just from the opening weekend, it's released on September 7th. This past weekend, the numbers are already really good.
The best movie in theaters right now.
Right
You
now.
must see it.
The movie
America's
of
worldwide number 1 film.
I don't know if it's worldwide number 1, but
you know how
for
they
sure.
do, man.
Yeah,
You know how they do.
They'll throw all kinds of titles in
Yes,
there.
they will.
But
Oh yeah,
it's
and they did
it's
Box
already-
Office Mojo 131 million global debut for the
global
Nun.
debut. Exactly.
You know they did.
So I mean, this is already doing really well.
And also a little trivia.
The Player Way.
Another reason why this film, despite its critical reception, it is the highest grossing Conjuring film to date in terms of its opening.
and that is off the backs of the rest of the Conjuring universe.
So, of course, they're going to say
essentially.
The Nun, and they're going to make another one.
And
I
another one.
mean, that would be kind of hard to do with the way they did the story, but whatever.
Exactly.
We'll see what happens. But anyway,
Anything's
that's
possible.
That's the September box office hustlers. That's the top 5. So always go look at the article at the PlayYourWayNetwork.com.
Get the full story at PlayLifeYourWay.com. This is the weekly movie chat podcast, The Player Way.
Completely transformed for your listening pleasure. Absolutely. Well, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between, we thank you for being here with us. This has been the most jam-packed episode, but we're trying to keep it right at an hour. Derek, anything else for the good of the order, brother?
Two things: good family film on Netflix, Next Gen, and if you want to go visit Wakanda again, it is on Netflix.
It
Go
sure
watch Black
is.
Panther on
It
Netflix,
sure is,
y'all.
and I'm gonna watch it tonight.
They kind of silently dropped that too.
Bro, I like
In
it.
addition.
Yeah,
I
bro,
like. I was
silent,
just
speaking of silent but
Silent
deadly.
drops,
Go
yeah.
ahead, talk about it.
So Netflix silently dropped over the weekend Iron Fist season
Iron
2.
Fist.
And it was kind of a surprise to most that it was even
They learned
ready.
their lesson. And what's
already
funny, if
ready.
you want to give it a little bit of, based on what we're talking about, season 1 of Iron Fist is what happens when you don't stay authentic to what's going on. Season 2, y'all, episode 1 is good. I'm not going to lie to you.
same here. It's pretty
It's
good.
pretty
good.
dang on good,
I
man.
haven't watched it yet. So
They
we'll have to
cut
see.
the BS out and they got straight to it. And speaking of cutting
I like
the
that
BS
it
out,
opens with what it needs to be. Like,
Yes,
this is
it
what we're
does.
about. Say no more. You know what I'm saying?
So, Derek, if there's nothing else for the good order, tell them what we about, man.
Man, hey, remember, stay weird out there, folks. After all, we're just agents. So if you don't like what me and BK are broadcasting, I strongly encourage you to and applaud you for
Corrupting the system.
And ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between, with all due respect, speaking for Mr. Corrupting the System and producer James, thank you so much once again for being here with us. I've been your resident podcast DJ, BK, helping you curate your entertainment media in the most player way possible. And I'm saving that drop because no matter what path you take or what actions you decide to follow, just make sure you're doing it
The player way.
We will absolutely see you next week.
This has been the weekly Movie Chat Podcast, hosted by BK Jackson and Derek Lewis. Studio engineer and producer, James Turner. Contributing writers, Ian Robert Parsons, Darius Prather, Johnny Robinson, and Jonathan Barron. And I'm Darren Marlar, showing you how to do voiceovers the player way. Get this and more lifestyle news at PlayLifeYourWay.com.
And we are out.